Beautiful creatures of this planet, welcome back to another installment of League Unlocked. That young man is Mark. My name is Eric. It's your weekend recap. Plenty of games to get through as the regular season, quickly enough, is winding to an end on most of the leagues. There's only 3 weeks left for most of them. At most, LPL is down to 2, so it's down to the nitty-gritty for playoffs. The banger on the Rift this weekend in the LCS was C9 versus Team Liquid, a actual battle for first, and for the first time in 2020, Cloud9 is not in first, Mark. What?
Nope, it is a tie at the very top of the LCS standings. And this is one of those ones where, look, without the past 2 weeks and the stumbling in performance from Cloud9, you wouldn't be having this discussion about whether it actually is a legitimate tie. And I think that with the form that TL showed and how they fought back and stayed in this one, that yes, we can talk about the composition on C9's side, which does deserve a lot of conversation as well, and the execution of that composition and throwing away quite a lot of leads and the losing your value to the shopkeeper type of situation. Yeah, not the best stuff from C9, but at the very top of the table with the tie, Team Liquid, finally, this is what we've been looking for a while, to say that I feel confident in at least a second squad in North America.
Yeah, so let's talk about the positives first in this game, because Team Liquid played well, overcame an early deficit. The Blitzcrank pick into this comp is the best pick you could possibly have in the game. CoreJJ has probably taken back his throne as best support in North America from Vulcan. Tactical has absolutely lived up to the hype, even though it was a moderate amount of hype. He's been one of the best AD carries in the league. So Team Liquid played great, and their draft was fantastic. The negatives, I don't really see the damage on this Cloud9 comp. Okay, you have Sona Lux. It's kind of like Sona Taric, but what is the carry on this team with a Shen top, a set mid? It's Hecarim? Hyper carry Hecarim? Is that what I'm looking at?
The idea that I've seen and what I know about Lux and Sona as a duo that people have been putting out in solo queue, it works in solo queue, yeah, because you can manage to carry and pop off and get someone, not playing up to the level on the other side of the team or the coordination. In pro play, this is not something that I'm thinking is going to be able to be executed anywhere nearly as easy as any of the other compositions that Cloud9 should have been taken into this one, because you're right. Who is going to be the damage dealer? Who is going to be the carry later on? And that was really the question for Cloud9 that they did not have an answer for into Team Liquid with this composition.
And you mentioned some of the item builds, probably looking specifically at the Frozen Heart on the Shen.
Yeah.
That was probably the one that stood out. And the Ninja Tabby maybe for him when there's a lot of magic damage on that Cloud9 comp. And Frozen Heart, I don't know. You're not even getting close to the Ezreal to really slow him down.
I was going to say that's the only option, the only real, damage that you're looking from that perspective to build that type of item. And still, there would be other choices that I think would be absolutely better. Even something, simple as just Mercurial Scimitar with, getting the QSS removal there. That's something that would have been much more valuable, I think, than going just straight up with that Frozen Gauntlet.
And, Sven on Sona, you can talk about how dominant Vulcan and Sven have been as a 2v2. And the Sona are some flashbacks to TSM Sona for Sven, which you remember that disgusting era of LCS, which was not a fun time to see. But even more concerning, and I know a lot of it can be attributed to the comp falling off absolutely in the mid to late game. But it's another game where a 3.5K gold lead early on for Cloud9, and they end up losing. We don't see them lose when they have leads.
And I think this is one of the issues that people had been worried about with Cloud9 and the level of competition and how they had been tested in North America for the most part, is I think that's where you're starting to see these, upsets, these, throws and leads of things of that nature happen, because you haven't been tested. You haven't been able to stay as sharp at the top of your game. You haven't been pushed as much as you would have liked to have been. And I think the complacency and the level of play of North America as a whole, as a region, is partly why you're starting to see these cracks in C9 emerge now.
Yeah, and again, you can go on both sides of the fence and praise Team Liquid for playing well, CoreJJ and Tactical especially, and then also look at the comp and the drafting for Cloud9. But another 1-in-1 week for them does raise some concerns, but feeling good about Team Liquid going forward, and they absolutely look like the only legitimate threat to Cloud9 in North America. A couple of 2-0 weeks for the squads directly below them in TSM and FlyQuest. We'll talk about TSM first, who absolutely had the easier schedule this week to go 2-0, and they almost blew it against CLG. Almost.
They might have had the easier schedule, but they absolutely didn't make it look any bit easier on the Rift, because the way that they played, not entirely clean. And yes, this is a week where I think you saw more positives than negative for TSM. Obviously, picking up a 2-0 week will usually do that for you. But I think that this is, again, another indication in the bot side that Treats is a good move, is a good change from Biofrost. I think that you weren't seeing the old levels of, synergy and playmaking coming from Biofrost and Doublelift, and you weren't seeing the gains and growth that they made when they were separated, being on CLG and Team Liquid most recently. You're seeing this bot lane start to develop a little bit more chemistry. You're seeing what Treats brings to the overall team. And I think that is the positive step forward that I'd be, if you're looking for the good stuff from TSM, that's where I'd be focusing.
Yeah, and it's really an interesting storyline that I didn't expect to happen this split, is to see Treats come in for Biofrost. It's just another rookie. I know he's been around for a long time playing in Academy with TSM, but another rookie alongside Doublelift. Maybe he helps jumpstart a career, even though Doublelift still hasn't been quite at the peak level so far in summer.
He's not even been at tactical levels.
Peak Doublelift. He's getting a pentakill against CLG. He's not failing the flash over the wall. He's cleaning that up for a penta, no doubt.
There's no need for the Ezreal there to be that close. Is how you can clearly tell that's not playing at peak levels.
No, but the rest of TSM, they still go 2-0. It was much more convincing against Dignitas, but listen, Dignitas just doesn't contest Souls or Barons. Are those important objectives? I can't remember. How's this game work?
Yikes.
But the 2-0 for FlyQuest was somewhat unexpected, and against much better teams. They beat Team Liquid on the Friday, who we just talked about and praised, had the biggest win streak in the LCS, just beat Cloud9, so impressive that Fly were able to beat them. And then they beat Golden Guardians, who for me are still better than their record dictates. So Wild Turtle's back in the lineup, and they look much better with him in there.
It's been one of those things that we've been waiting for and watching with FlyQuest, and I think a lot of people that have had questions for the top side with Solo and how well he did for them coming in spring, and whether that was going to be sustainable for this FlyQuest roster. And then you had the periods of time where you haven't really been seeing the strengths of this team, players like Power of Evil and Ignar not really providing the level of playmaking that you had seen in spring. You're seeing it now a little bit more consistently with FlyQuest. And as I was saying earlier, Solo in the top side has absolutely been just as solid as he was in spring. And it's continued, in the consistency that we hadn't been seeing from him in his career prior to this point is exactly what you're getting now, actually, with FlyQuest. Seeing that consistency, that, that rock in that top side for them has helped them be steady.
Yeah, and that's why you have a little bit more confidence in them being a top 3 squad or top 4 squad going forward. And that brings us to the meaningless topic of the week, which is you kind of have the top 3 set. Cloud9, Team Liquid are absolutely 1 and 2, inarguable, indisputable. I guess you're putting TSM third, but I might put even FlyQuest above them. So who's the 4th best team, or maybe even 5th best team? Who's the next climbing up to maybe compete with the top half of the LCS? It's got to be between EG and Golden Guardians, right?
Yeah, it absolutely has to be Evil Geniuses and Golden Guardians. I think a squad like CLG is just, 1 or 2 many mistakes behind that type of group.
4 losses in a row for CLG.
Right. Yeah, the loss is obviously in the schedule, talking about that one too, but just from what you've been seeing, watching these games, yeah, it has to be down to Evil Geniuses and Golden Guardians. But I think at the same time, when you're talking about those 2 teams, it comes to one of the issues of this type of question is, does it matter? Does this question matter? Does it matter where, how you rank these teams at this point in the LCS? Because we all know the level of competition that you're going to get from the very top teams, let alone the level of competition that you're going to probably get around the world. What does it matter?
Do you think FlyQuest can legitimately make Worlds?
I think that, yeah, well, as far as taking the North American spot, sure. If you want to be talking about getting out of the play-ins or getting out of the group stage, that's a different conversation entirely, my man.
Even play-ins. Oh man, it feels
Hey.
so bad. But hey, don't worry, North American fans, because if you're a fan of CLG and 100 Thieves, 5-9, that's a playoff spot right now, guys. Don't worry about it. Top 8. It's only Dig and Immortals who are out of playoffs right now.
I was about to say, don't worry about it. And then I realized that, oh, wait, this is actually a bad thing. We've got 8 teams making playoffs in North America. So
hey,
get ready. The question about Evil Geniuses and Golden Guardians, who's better? You're going to see teams worse than that in the playoffs. So get ready that question isn't even the bottom of the barrel yet.
We've memed Dignitas a lot for just rolling over and losing games. 1 game out of playoffs. Dignitas. 4-10. 1 game out of playoffs.
Dignitas, bring Lorlo back up. Playoffs, you're in. I guarantee it.
That's
book it.
Guaranteed from Mark. Let's go to a little bit more fun region. Although NA's real fun. The LEC had a crazy weekend because the theme has been G2 and Fnatic underperforming. These younger players, Rogue and Mad, stepping up absolutely. We got G2 versus Rogue this weekend, and it looked like it was going to be more of the same for so long. You had a 4,000 gold lead at 15 minutes for Rogue, and it was like, G2, the issues continue. Rogue continues to stomp through the LEC. And then you have a very creative Baron steal where Mickey stuns the squad with the Tempered Fate from Bard of Rogue, and they burst the Baron. G2 does when it's at very low health. Caps gets the steal on the Syndra. It was very well coordinated. That delays the game, and eventually G2 get a, honestly, miracle come from behind win to, I don't want to say save their season, but people would absolutely be panicking if G2 lost this game.
I don't think that's a small statement in any type of way that it did save their season. You're looking at this as a G2 roster that needed this victory to stay in the playoff race in the LEC. And as we know, you got to be in the playoffs in the LEC to make it to Worlds. And that would be quite a fall from our World finalists last year. Look, the way that G2 has played and the struggles that we've seen the past couple of weeks and getting Perks back into the lineup and how much we had thought that, look, it won't be that much of an issue. We will see the G2 of old. They're going to find their ways. There still is obviously quite a lot of work to go through here. And yes, this was a miracle come from behind victory, but it's one of those ones that you do have to look at, and it absolutely has that flavor of a G2 comeback to it, right? Where they're never really out of the game. They have a way to find a way to get these objectives controlled in their favor, turn around one team fight type of way. And I absolutely want to take this moment because, yes, there was a lot of good things going right with G2 in that one. You said it, Mickey, Caps, huge carry performance. But I do want to give props to Jankos because I know that the game wasn't absolutely clean from him. But to be able to pilot a Kha'Zix at that point in the game and to be able to have the effect that he did in those fights, managing to secure that damage and the kills onto Larson really was so crucial for G2 to stay into these games and to turn around these fights.
And a lot of the criticism has gone to Perks' performance in the bot lane. And of course, he hasn't been nearly to the level that we've seen or grown accustomed to him, bot lane or mid lane, either role. But Jankos has been outclassed in a lot of matchups too. You remember, right before this Rogue match, he got smashed in by God Gilius against Shulka.
Yeah, and this is exactly the MVP. This is the level that we've been talking about, top tier jungler in the LEC. So yes, this was a great bounce back weekend for Jankos specifically, and specifically in the game. Jankos did a great job having that effect on the Kha'Zix pick.
And it's by no means all right. Great, smooth sailing now for G2. They're still below 500, 6-7. 7 losses is usually what they get over 2 splits in the regular season, and they're already sitting there. So this really, people were about to smack the panic button in this game, and then the Baron steal happens. You're like, okay, I'll wait a game, but we were close to precedent.
You keep that hand hovering over that button, guys, because they're still just on that borderline, and it's going to take a hell of an effort these next couple of weeks. And I say couple of weeks because it's going to have to be continued from week to week for G2 to turn this around and save the season.
And we were pretty close to hitting the panic button for Fnatic, too, when they were drafting Soraka every game and getting down 5,000 gold at 15 minutes pretty consistently. But they went back to comfort against Origen, who's a team we were praising last week. We're not praising them after this week, by the way. That's the Drac Troll we know and remember. But Fnatic, they go more comfort. You get Nemesis on Corki. You get the Pike for Hylissang. Bwipo gets Gangplank, racks up 10 kills. And your boy hits the Rift in EU. We've seen Jin picked in the LPL a couple of times throughout summer. Reckless gets it. I'll be honest, he didn't do much with the Jin pick. If you look at the numbers after the game, he did about...
And that's Jin, baby!
17% of his team's damage, which about 10% below his average.
Man, yeah, that's the reload. If he wasn't reloading like that, your boy Reckless pumping out insane damage on the Jin. It was a real treat for all the Jin mains like myself out there, getting to see our boy hit the Rift again. And you know what? Looked okay. Didn't look out of place in this composition, but that absolutely is certainly saying a lot more about the other 4 members of Fnatic and how they were playing. That Jin didn't look out of place whatsoever at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, Nemesis did 36% of the team's damage, a full 20 more than Reckless. Bwipo had 10 kills on the Gangplank, but really they just looked much more comfortable. It helps when Bwipo and Hylissang aren't borderline inting, but the most important thing was they had a good early game. How many games this split have we seen Fnatic behind 4,000-5,000 gold at 20 minutes, and they're scraping, and if they're not against Misfits, they're not coming back.
Yeah, the way that I would describe this split, and especially the early game for Fnatic, is just sloppy. They were very sloppy in and out of their own lanes around the map. It was not very good, what you've been wanting to see. And then obviously this past weekend, as you said it, Bwipo and Hylissang, a lot stronger performances from them individually. Nemesis really stepping up and carrying the play for the team. And you're right, the early game, the beginning play of this for this team was a lot cleaner and a lot stronger around all aspects of the map.
Yeah, and we're slowly seeing them get closer to the level we're expecting. They're still, muddled in with a bunch of other squads and at a comparable level to some of these other squads, especially when squads like SK Gaming are showing up against Mad Lions at the top of the table. Not only are they showing up, but listen, you can say, oh, Mad Lions, well, they threw that game. They didn't play well. SK looked great. They look like a legit playoff team in an incredibly competitive LEC split.
Gotta love seeing SK push up like this. This has been one of the better stories of the LEC, seeing them compete at this type of level. And the best thing is that, again, it has not just been a fluke that, oh my God, 1 week, 2 weeks at SK I've been able to do it. We're this many weeks into the split right now that we've got 2-3 weeks remaining for SK to finish and close this thing out, and they are still absolutely in the very thick of this playoff race for the LEC. Really happy for the rest of this roster. I know a lot of people, ourselves included, always like to put praise and get excited about our boy Crowny and Crownshot doing good work for SK, but it absolutely is deserved for the rest of the members to get some of that credit, because this has been a full team effort to make sure that they are playing this well consistently for what they had been before in the LEC.
Yeah, let's just respect what they're doing. Crownshot has the highest GPM of any AD carry in the split so far, and Zazie, the rookie mid laner, the highest KP percentage and the second highest KDA, behind only Larson among all mid laners. And we know how great most of the mid laners are in the LEC right now, so incredible rookie split from him. Probably the front runner for rookie of the split.
Yeah, and look, I know this is probably due to the champion as well, and not one that I like, but I gotta say that he was looking pretty nutty on that Zoe this past weekend, making some really nice plays for the squad.
Yeah, people take a back seat on the Zoe hate now since Aphelios has been on the Rift, and he's public enemy #1. But listen, Zoe's still there, guys. And she has 200 years of Aphelios. Zoe's like 10,000 years old, right? Come on. Like,
yikes.
She'll always have him beat. But with SK looking so good, it makes the playoffs of the LEC absolutely insane. And if there's a Western league that should have 8 teams going to playoffs, it should be Europe, who has 4 world spots on the line and 8 legitimate teams that could go to playoffs, because the standings right now, Misfits have now lost 4 games in a row. So they're 5-8, tied with Vitality for 8th and 9th in the league. They're 2 games out of 3rd. Out of third, not just playoffs,
And-
third place.
You said it. That's the crazy thing, is thinking that, you know what? You take the 6-team playoffs and bring that over to the LCS, where we're only going to have the 3 slots, and it doesn't matter really who is the third.
Teams in.
I guess
Just
if you
right
really want to
semis.
if you really want to be negative, you could say it wouldn't even matter who's the second seed from North America at that point. You got all these playoff teams fighting for these spots, and you only got 6 of them over in the LEC. Man, give them those 8. Give them the 8 that you had, making a nice number with the 4 teams going to Worlds. Come on, we need to have bigger LEC playoffs with the way that the talent has shown themselves this split. Got to put it on display.
Yeah, there's going to be at least one legit squad, I think, that misses playoffs. I was really impressed with Excel this week. Also, they went 2-0. They beat that SK team that we were just praising, and they also took down Vitality. Patrick, listen, this guy's playing at an all-pro level this split. All-pro.
When Patrick came into the league, it was around the same time that Upset was playing, and everyone was looking at the hype around him and how he played. And Patrick hasn't had that level of consistency or quite the highs that someone like Upset has had. But when you look at pretty much the past 3-4 weeks in a row as a little sample size, the consistency is absolutely there, and the level of play is elite. And that is one of the really best things for the squad right now, because that has certainly turned around their fortunes to be one of these teams that you have to be thinking about for this playoff race.
And he's a classic example of, it usually happens with AD carries. Teams play around them. They know that he's the carry. They know they draft comps around him. They're giving him all the extra CS that they can. And sure, you can say that takes away from carry performances when you get funneled resources. But that's a lot of pressure. If you go into the game every time, you're the carry. You better not screw up. You better not miss position in a fight, or we are doomed. And he hasn't done that yet for Excel.
And sure, a handful of those victories in the recent sample size for Excel, and with Patrick doing really well, are due to 200 years and 200 years doing 200-year type of things out on the Rift.
A lot of years.
But you absolutely do need to acknowledge that, yes, there are these other ones. There are these other champions that have been picked that have been playing very well. And again, Patrick stepping up when it matters the most right now for Excel, trying to hold on in this playoff race.
And we only got 2 weeks left now in the LEC, because week 8 is the super week where they play on the Sunday as well. So 2 weeks to sort out this mess that is playoffs. Who knows how it'll end? I can't imagine seeing G2 or Fnatic miss playoffs, but crazier things have happened on the Rift. A lot of crazy stuff happened this week in the LPL and the LCK. There was some fantastic matchups on the Rift, and we got to start with the Sunday banger, Invictus Gaming versus Top eSports. Jackie Love versus his former squad, and this was the first time in the summer split that Top eSports was on the receiving end of a 2-0 loss. 2-0.
I thought you were going to say that this is the first time that we are witnessing Bowland's revenge. My boy,
Listen.
He gets it done. He says, I don't care. You know what, Jackie, we're really good friends still. You might have said all these hurtful things about how I play League of Legends and my level of play and whatnot, but we're still good buddies. But I'm going to take this little series victory for myself, if you don't mind.
And by the way, now 6 series in a row for IG. Balon's been there for all of them. He's riding the win streak, and he got support of the week in the LPL for last week. This is a great storyline for a guy who got memed on so hard at the end of what we thought was the end of his tenure with IG, and then all of a sudden, oh, he's still on the roster? I just assumed they got rid of him, but now he's come back, and he's leading a resurgence for them.
Come back with a vengeance alongside Puff Down in the bot side. And when you're thinking about this turnaround for IG and how well they're playing, yes, the usual is still there. Rookie is still playing at an incredibly high level, as always.
He was the star of this series.
Making some insane shockwave level performances coming through. Yes, big time still. But the Shy has turned around his slump to being at least playing towards what I would say is average for the Shy, which is obviously better than the average player. And that feels pretty darn good for IG. This was the big match against Top eSports, and we have been talking about this is the last really tough matchup left for Top for them to take on, and they stumble on this one. So interesting to see how they're going to rebound to close out the remainder of summer.
And for all the hype and attention that Top and Knight especially have gotten this split, absolutely deservedly so. And I don't think Knight necessarily underperformed at all in this series, but Rookie took his play to another level, going up against what's pretty much been the consensus best mid laner in the world in the summer split, and he had back-to-back incredible series. So big shout out to him. And IG played better. Sure, top, you can critique some of the stuff. Maybe they didn't play their highest level. Jackie Love, little bit too much frontline Ezreal in this series. But hey, all credit in the world to IG for this win.
You said it right. Rookie was able to maintain and control the mid lane against someone like Knight, which is, easier said than done type of task for himself. And then on top of that, Rookie was someone playing at an above level, popping off, doing more than he had to for his team. So to be able to get that level of contribution from someone like Rookie, wow, holding someone like Knight in check, absolutely perfect stuff from IG.
And the crazy part now is, after this and JDG's win streak reaching double digits now, Top's in third in the LPL at 10-2. JDG are 11-2, IG now 11-3. So for a team that's been so dominant all split, they're still in third. Now they have games in hand and will probably pass at least one of them. But just crazy that now they're down to third.
Yeah, and look, nothing I saw from Top is going to lead me to say that, oh man, this is the slip up. This is where they're going to all of a sudden go into a slump type of situation. You better believe Top is going to be bouncing back pretty strong.
It's about as close a 2-game series as you could possibly have. It was by no means a stomp either game for IG. The other insane top of the table matchup over the weekend was DRX versus GenG, and that's another series that definitely lived up to the hype. We had, listen, I made a Chovy top 10 video last week, top 10 plays of his career, and then he comes in and does this Galio play at game 1. Come on.
Man, insane. You're just looking at that when you're looking at the play. You're thinking to yourself, oh man, got to go on the back foot here, DRX running away, and then bam, hits you with the 4-man taunt on the Galio. Just clean, disgusting play. And it's one of those ones where you watch it and you see it happen. You see him go back in and you're like, oh man, that was gross. But then your immediate second thought is like, man, you see that happen 1 second after he does it. You see the thought come through of, oh man, here it is, the big Galio play. And it is just perfection coming across from Chovy and DRX looking clean. And you said it though, that was a really amazing, fun series to watch.
And that play, remember, this is nerfed Galio, where you can't flash while you're charging the taunt anymore. And not only is it a sick play, but you literally win the game off it. And I think if he doesn't make that play, you probably lose the game. So it's about as high stakes as you could possibly do. Absolutely, redoing his top 10 plays. This is top 5 easily, probably top 3. So eventually we'll revamp that. But the series was so back and forth. Game 3 was a little bit more decisive in the way of DRX, but man, these mid laners across the globe, Rookie, Knight, Chovy, they're just, the plays they've been putting up in summer are some of the highest we've seen in years almost.
Hey, to get these star players all playing at such a high level right now across the regions across the globe feels really great, and it's one of those ones where keeping those fingers crossed that we do eventually get our international tournament at the end of the year here to see everyone duke it out for the championship.
And now with the win, DRX sitting pretty at 11-1 atop the tables in the LCK. On Thursday, they match up against Damwon, which is obviously the match of the week because, Damwon has been speedrunning the LCK. Can they speedrun DRX?
It's that is how good Damwon and DRX have been. And when it takes away from the game of the week from being the telecom war that we're looking at, and a telecom war where it still has a lot of importance for both of these teams.
Yeah, but anytime those guys are going to match, because you'll see the LCK is not slow when DRX and Damwon meet up on the Rift. There's nothing slow about that. You mentioned your boys at T1. We alluded to their matchup this weekend. They always lose to Honra Life. Doesn't matter what their record is. They didn't lose, but they struggled against the 1-9 squad, Mark. They struggled.
The ending score, the box score is going to say, yeah, you didn't lose the match, but you lost a little bit of confidence from this one for T1. Certainly there are points and there are positives to pick from this one and from the individual games and player performances. Let's see more of Cuz getting that Karthus type of pick. That's something I definitely think could be a nice cure for T1. But certainly, again, a 3-game victory over someone like Honra Life is not going to instill the level of confidence that you need when you have DRX, GenG, and Damwon all playing at the level that they're playing for consistent weeks now.
Yeah, and Cuz and Kana were absolutely the standout players in this series. They picked up both of the MVPs in the wins. Faker had some suspect jump-ins on the Zoe, absolutely. And listen, Teddy is the guy we've been praising throughout all of 2020 as the most consistent, reliable player on T1. But lately, and in this series, he had the second lowest damage share. That means only effort had less in both of their wins. You just feel like you go through a lot of the highlights or VODs and you're like, what? Where's Teddy? Is Ted? Oh, CS is up there, but where is he in these fights? Where is he dominating or taking over team fighting like we're accustomed to seeing out of him?
It's certainly one of the ones where you're looking at the rest of the teams in the LCK and you're thinking about heading towards playoffs and what you're going to have this week on the table. You're going to need players like Faker and, as you said, Teddy to really step up and deliver the performances that we have seen from them, let alone in the past of their careers, but especially with T1 and how they've been able to propel them to victory. That is going to be the real question because, look, to get by a team like KT, to get by a team like Afrika Freaks, you can maybe bank on players like a young gun like Kana and Cuz popping off, getting you those victories. But if you're going to be getting outside of anything out here in the top 3 of the LCK, you're absolutely going to have Faker and Teddy, both of them, not just one, but both of them playing at a high level to answer to the competition on the other side.
Yeah, there's zero concern about T1 making playoffs. Like, that is not a concern whatsoever. But yeah, they have to clean up a lot if they want to compete with that top 3. And we know what's the expectation for the organization of T1 every split in Korea. It's to win. It's not to make a deep playoff run. It's to win the split, which they've done 3 times in a row, by the way. But they don't look like the favorites for a 4th right now.
No, absolutely not the favorites for me. Right now, the favorites for me, I want to say DRX. I really want to say DRX. But I got to go with the hot hand. I'm still feeling Damwon could be the squad to pull it off, to put that fire through the LCK playoffs.
Yeah, we'll ask you that same question after Thursday when
yes, please.
When those 2 squads beat up on the Rift. But yeah, 2 weeks left to go in a lot of these leagues, 3 weeks in some, as the playoffs get down and crazy as Worlds hopefully are around the corner. But that's all the time today for League Unlocked. That is Mark. My name's Eric. Thanks for hanging out, as always, for chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool with us, and we'll catch you on the flippity flop.